All right, let's dive right into this. Order in the court. Welcome everyone to the Cambridge Exam Boardroom Trial. I'll be your host today and, well, for the purpose of this explainer, I'm your presiding judge. Look, today we are opening up a very specific and honestly highly contested case file. We're talking Mathematics 9079, Section 1.1, Quadratics, and we are zeroing in on completing the square. Now listen, this isn't just about crunching numbers. It's really about how you prove your case to the examiner. If you've ever walked out of an exam feeling like you completely knew the math, but somehow you still lost the marks, yeah, you are definitely in the right courtroom today. Let's take a look at the evidence. So the formal charge sheet just came down directly from the senior examiner, and it is crystal clear. They're saying that completing the square is consistently one of the absolute most misunderstood areas in all of AS and A-level mathematics. The stakes here are just incredibly high. We've got students walking into the exam hall, making these fundamental procedural errors and just leaving easy marks on the table. Well, we are going to fix that right now. We're going to break down exactly what the examiners are actually looking for. But before we call our first witness to the stand, we really need to understand the laws of this particular courtroom. The absolute core academic benchmark that you need to hit to win your case is this concept of analytical depth. Basically, the Cambridge assessment framework completely prioritizes logical, structured reasoning over just a superficial breadth of knowledge. So, what does that mean for you? It means just throwing down a scattergun of random equations on the page? Yeah, that isn't going to cut it anymore. The jury, and by that I mean your examiners, they will throw superficial answers right out of court. Your arguments have to be precise, the cause and effect has to be crystal clear, and literally every step of your reasoning needs to be backed up by mathematical evidence. To show you exactly where candidates tend to go off the rails, let me introduce you to our two junior attorneys for today. They perfectly represent the most common student pitfalls that we see popping up in the principal examiner reports all the time. So on the left, we've got counsel Alex. Now, Alex does really deep mathematical working, but their presentation is basically non-existent. We're talking messy files, missing headings, and the examiner honestly just can't follow the logic at all. Then on the right side, we have counsel Sam. Sam writes a beautifully formatted, highly persuasive final answer, but they lack the physical evidence, meaning they completely skip showing their step-by-step mathematical working. And here's the harsh truth, neither of these approaches will satisfy the assessment objectives on their own. Let's actually cross-examine the syllabus itself and see what the jury really wants from you. The assessment objectives for 1.1 Quadratics target a few distinct cognitive domains. First, you obviously need knowledge and understanding. Second, you have to apply those concepts to unfamiliar contexts, and examiners note that students find this incredibly hard, by the way. Third, you need analysis and integration, but here it is, the ultimate winning piece of evidence, cross-topic connections. The principal examiner reports explicitly highlight that candidates who integrate different areas of the syllabus together, they achieve significantly higher marks. That right there is how you elevate your grade. Moving on to Section 2, cross-examining the text. The method marks strategy. Let's see how our attorneys structure their opening arguments. Okay, so counsel Alex steps up to present their primary defense strategy, and I've got to admit, it's a brilliant one. The examiner reports are constantly issuing this massive alert. Students are losing huge marks simply because they don't show their working. Alex reminds us of the golden rule of Cambridge mathematics. Even if your final answer is totally wrong, method marks can save you. Seriously. When you are completing the square, you get marks for the actual process. Say you make a silly mathematical error, right? Like maybe you forget to have the middle coefficient, or you mess up expanding the bracket after factoring out a negative sign. If your analytical framework and your systematic processing are still clearly visible on the page, those method marks become a literal lifeline. But wait, counsel Sam steps in with a pretty vital objection here. Having the working out isn't enough if it's a chaotic mess. Sam maps out this standardized sequence that you absolutely must follow. Step 1, identify the key elements and pull the relevant data from the question. Step 2, apply the relevant principles. Step 3, execute your analysis with very clear working and notation. Step 4, verify those results. And finally, Step 5, present your findings in the right format, using the correct terminology. Following this exact step-by-step layout directly hits the assessment objectives and guarantees the examiner can follow your logic without having to guess what you were thinking. Now, the really tricky part is actually remembering that sequence when you're under the pressure of an exam. So as the judge, I'm going to briefly interject here with a quick tactical memory hack. Just create a mnemonic using the first letters of those strict procedural steps we just went through. Identify, apply, execute, verify, present. IAEVP. Something like in all exams, verify presentation. Whatever sticks in your brain.
Linking these steps to a mnemonic just ensures you'll never forget the proper headings, the clear annotation, and the exact terminology that the assessment framework is demanding.
Okay, mid-trial recess, restocking the evidence. Let's pause for a quick second before we get into the closing arguments. But hey, before we present those final closing arguments, you need to make sure your legal counsel feed is totally secured for all our future trials. Hit subscribe to Ace the Exams at the handle @AceTheExams right now. Make sure you enable all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly masterclass explainers. We are literally here to help you dominate your syllabus step by step. All right, recess is over. Let's get right back into the courtroom. Okay, returning to the trial. Both Counsel Alex and Counsel Sam are honestly struggling a bit to tie their really complex quadratic equations into one cohesive final answer. So I am injecting the PEL structural framework into the official record, Math Edition of course. That stands for Point, Evidence, Evaluate, Link. You state your mathematical point, you show your working out as your evidence, you evaluate by checking if your answer is actually reasonable, and then you link it all back to the specific context of the original question. It's a real game changer because it aligns perfectly with the syllabus's demand for logical, causal relationships. Next up, interactive jury duty, the examiner's playbook. It's time for you to actively evaluate the evidence. All right, here is challenge 1. I am putting a visual 60-second timer up in the courtroom. I want you to look really closely at this procedural framework exhibit. Notice we have 3 strategies: deconstruct, solve, and evaluate. Now check out that evidence quality column. Solving, like literally just executing the math steps, only gives you a medium evidence quality on its own. Crazy, right? The actual winning arguments lie in deconstructing the data properly at the very beginning and evaluating the reasonableness of your answer at the very end. That is where high analytical depth is actually proven. Did you spot that? That is the secret to unlocking those highest order assessment objectives. And that perfectly leads us into the top 3 examiner warnings for 1.1 Quadratics. Counsel Alex and Sam want you to burn these into your memory right now. Number 1, candidates constantly confuse cause and effect in their reasoning. Number 2, they completely forget to check their format and presentation. Remember Alex's messy files from earlier? Don't do that. And number 3, answers are not specific to the context given. Let me be clear. If a question asks you to find a real-world maximum height using a completed square, and you just slap down an abstract number with no units, you are in contempt of the assessment criteria. Context is quite literally everything. Moving right along to challenge 2, spot the hearsay. As a member of this jury, you have got to differentiate between actual facts and just pure fluff. Look on the left. We have descriptive fluff. This is when a candidate just vomits equations onto the page without explaining their systemic sequence at all. In this courtroom, that's hearsay. It proves absolutely nothing. Now look on the right. We have analytical depth. This is where the candidate provides justified recommendations, they question assumptions, and they consider alternative interpretations. The top-scoring candidates always operate on the right side of the slide, always. They evaluate and they justify their mathematical decisions with hard, written evidence. Finally, Section 4, the final verdict and closing arguments. Let's merge these approaches for a flawless strategy. Working together, our attorneys now present the ultimate problem-solving loop for 1.1 Quadratics. First, deconstruct. You have to identify the given information and break it all down into logical steps. Second, solve. Execute the math systematically with incredibly clear working to lock down every single one of those method marks. Third, evaluate. Check your final answer for reasonableness and make justified recommendations based entirely on the context. If you apply this exact loop, you instantly transform from a candidate who just does the math into a candidate who demonstrates genuine, higher-order evaluative thinking. So, as your judge today, I am delivering the final verdict by cementing the 3 rules of evidence linkage. And these come straight from the most critical examiner reports, so pay attention. Rule 1, you must always show your working to claim your method marks, even if you totally doubt your final answer. Rule 2, avoid cause and effect confusion. Ensure every single step logically flows from the previous one. Rule 3, present your final answer with strict formatting, the correct terminology, and tie it directly back to the specific context of the question. The evidence presented today is pretty undeniable, but the real question you need to ask yourself the next time you sit down with a practice paper is this: are you just executing math, or are you actually building a bulletproof case for your examiner? Really think about that before you write down your next equation. If you are ready to secure your legal counsel fee, hit that subscribe button for Ace the Exams, ring the bell, and jump into the comments right now with your target grade. Court is officially adjourned. We will see you in the next explainer.